Yukinari Sasaki is not an ordinary guy. He suffers from a bizarre condition. He has a fear of girls. For all his life, he has been bullied by people, especially girls, for being short as hell. The poor guy has been targeted explicitly by girls and their bullying and hasn't been able to do anything about it. The fear has rooted so deep inside the boy that now, whenever a girl touches him, his body gets filled with rashes and he becomes extremely sick. Yep, life is not good to him at all. Back at home, Sasaki used to live with his parents, but one day his mom and dad just moved away to some random place, leaving him in charge of the house. In other words, they abandoned the poor guy. Since his house was now empty, the neighbor's daughter, Kairi Kojima, came to his house occasionally to check up on him and use the house like her own private property. One day, as Sasaki returned back to his home, he heads straight to the bathroom where he stumbles upon Kiri, just about to take a shower. The girl is pissed and starts berating Sasaki for being such a pervert. The poor guy was just beginning to explain to himself when suddenly the girl smashes her knees into his face, throwing the lad into the bathtub. The surroundings suddenly goes dark as Sasaki plunges into the bathtub and starts sinking. This bathtub is deeper than Joe Rogan's podcast, as Sasaki manages to recall all of his memories as he drowns slowly. Suddenly, his eyes open up and he gets up. However, the man is no longer in his bathroom. He had isekai'd somewhere. Where, you ask? Into the bathroom of another girl named Miharu. Fortunately for him, this girl is not as rowdy and rude as the ones he knew on Earth. Miharu, unclothed obviously, jumps onto Sasaki like he is some kind of a celebrity and starts asking him all sorts of questions. Sasaki, however, is confused as to how he got to this strange place. Miharu doesn't let up with her questions and starts getting uncomfortably close to Sasaki without having any clothes on. This is all too much for the poor guy, and Sasaki ends up fainting. When he finally wakes up, everything around him is now PG-13 and not 18+. Miharu has dressed up too, and more importantly, Sasaki doesn't seem to have developed any rashes by her touch. He is safe, at least with Miharu. The two start talking, and Sasaki realizes that he had been transported to another planet called Seiren. The planet was close to Earth, but was only visible to those who had previously visited it. Just then, Miharu's sister Kanaka arrives. As soon as she notices Sasaki, her eyes widen, and she starts mumbling to herself how the boy is not perfect, but will do just fine as her mate. Like a crazy animal, she rushes to grab Sasaki and plunges him into her chest. The boy instantly faints at the woman's touch, but before he could get even more serious, Miharu knocks out her sister and takes Sasaki outside. The two then sit by the local fountain, and soon enough, two young girls appear near Sasaki. He greets them with a smile, but then the little girls start holding on to him, asking him to marry them. Someone call the FBI! Sasaki quickly gets up and glances around. Literally no one around him was male. This world was filled with females, and he was stuck in it. Miharu explains that less than 10% of Seiren's population was male, and that's why all the women acted crazy when they saw one. Before she could finish, a horde of women arrive at the scene and surround them. They try to run away, but the women's gang is being led by Miharu's sister, so they know exactly where Miharu is going to run, not to mention Sasaki is not exactly the athletic type either, and falls down every chance he gets. Soon, the women grab hold of him and start feeling him up, right there on the street. Miharu doesn't know what to do, when suddenly, a bright light starts emitting from her body and a huge explosion occurs, knocking out every single woman in the area. Sasaki is blasted off like Team Rocket and lands right back into the same bathroom as before. Miharu quickly follows Sasaki in, and the two notice a vision coming from the bathwater. It was Kiri. Turns out the girl was a tsundere and secretly liked Sasaki. The poor girl was crying over the bathtub, thinking that she might have ended Sasaki's life with that knee kick to his face. Sasaki decides maybe it's best that he returned back to his own world, and Miharu decides to help him. She undresses, which was highly unnecessary, and gets into the bath with Sasaki. A strange bright light surrounds them, and Sasaki is transported back to his real world, much to the delight of Kiri. However, this happiness fades away in seconds when she notices an unclothed girl stuck to Sasaki's behind. Miharu had somehow traveled with him. This time, Kiri gets even angrier. She punches the poor dude so hard that he ends up flying around the room. However, this time he doesn't get transported anywhere. He just gets really, really hurt. A few days have now passed, and all efforts to send Miharu to her homeworld had failed. It's as if she was stuck in this new world. Despite having a literal person now to take care of, Sasaki still decides that he has to go to school too. That's right, kids, stay in school. Sasaki and Kiri leave home with tons of snacks for Miharu to have during the day, promising her that they would bring back some curry bread from school when they returned. As soon as the two students leave, Miharu gets bored. So bored that she starts eating everything that the two left behind and finishes it all in just one go. Even after eating all of that food, she is still hungry. Apparently, Earth food is just not enough for her, and in hunger, she just leaves home, hoping to find Sasaki's school and eventually that curry bread that they had offered her earlier. She wanders around town from one place to another, hoping to find the school, but to no avail. Suddenly, she finds a fruit shop. The owner is desperately trying to sell some of his products and notices Miharu staring at the banana. The courteous shop owner allows the girl to have one banana, and Miharu goes ahead and proceeds to eat the banana in the most sus way possible. That's just straight up demonetizable. The owner watches in awe as the girl sussily sucks on the banana. For some reason, the man remembers his days back when he was inspired to become a fruit shop owner and goes into a monologue, and by the time he is finished, Miharu is gone, and so is his entire stock of bananas. She must have been really hungry for some bananas, ha! Back at school, life is back to normal for Sasaki, and he has reverted back to his introverted, always bullied ways. And while there is Sasaki on one end of the spectrum, to the other end is a guy named Kazuharu. Kazuharu is a rich, spoiled brat who absolutely loves women and loves a lot of them. His love, however, is borderline, actually beyond borderline harassment. He takes every chance to fondle a girl's chest, especially Kiri's whenever he can. Not sure why he hasn't been expelled from school already. Kiri beats him up every time he tries to act sus, but still, every time the man gets up and tries his acts again. He doesn't know when it's time to give up when it comes to women. Just as Kiri breaks another window after slamming Kazuharu onto it, Miharu manages to track down the school. She arrives and is met by Sasaki and Kiri. However, when her voice reaches Kazuharu's ears, he cannot stop himself from rising up to meet this new girl that he hadn't harassed yet. The man races to the ground, grabs Miharu, and runs away like Swiper from Dora the Explorer. Sasaki rushes to rescue his friend, but the sly Kazuharu pushes him into the woman's locker room and even manages to subdue Kiri somehow. But just then, Miharu uses her powers and explodes, causing Kazuharu to let her go. The explosion wakes up Kiri, who kicks the man into the men's locker room. As I said earlier, Kazuharu is the exact opposite of Sasaki and is allergic to men, so it's safe to say he had a rough time in that locker room. Somewhere on the Earth, probably Japan, a girl is taking a shower and listening to her daily horoscope. It tells her that she will meet her soulmate soon. Back at home, Kazuharu has managed to use his money to get Miharu admission into their school. He was probably planning some really bad things to do to her, but Miharu is glad that she can go to school. She wakes up Sasaki from his nightmare about being bullied by girls and calls him to breakfast. The food, however, is barely enough to keep Sasaki alive. While cooking, Miharu got a bit too hungry and ate his portion as well. After barely eating his fill, Sasaki, Miharu, and Kirei head to school. Sasaki accidentally bumps into the same lady listening to the horoscope from before. The girl, who is slightly younger than them, instantly believes that Sasaki is the love of her life. She grabs him instantly, giving the poor lad his allergies. As Sasaki faints, the girl goes on a monologue expressing her undying love for Sasaki. She just met the guy. Jeez. Taking the opportunity, Miharu and Kiri take Sasaki away. By the time the girl realizes that Sasaki is gone, it's too late. They have already reached their school. However, she calls someone to take the target into captivity. Some James Bond stuff was about to happen. While in school, Sasaki and his group is discussing about the event earlier with Kazuharu, pretty pissed that Sasaki didn't bring another cute girl along with him, when suddenly a flash grenade launches into the room and two hitmen enter like some classic spy movie. The flashbang affects everyone except Kiri, but she is no match for the two hitmen who take Sasaki away after smoking the place with another smoke bomb. When they all come back to their senses, Kazuharu seems to know what this whole mess was and leads them to where he thinks Sasaki might be. It turns out that the kidnappers of Sasaki were actually working for the girl from earlier, who is Kazuharu's sister, Lisa. Lisa is as crazy as Kazuharu, but for boys. And to top it all off, she even does some really creepy black magic stuff, so she is a walking red flag. Right now, she has Sasaki bound to a crucifix, and she starts to summon a demon to bless them for marriage. She then heads to kiss Sasaki, who has already fainted due to his allergies. Miharu notices this, and in order to help her friend, she uses her power and explodes just in time to stop both the monster and Lisa at once. They rush Sasaki to the school nurse, and Lisa finally learns that Sasaki is actually allergic to girls. Feeling bad for her actions, she later prepares a huge feast only for Sasaki. But, yet again, there is a hidden motive to it all. Yes, she does offer him a lot of food, but ultimately, to cure Sasaki of his fear of women, she starts offering herself to the lad. Talk about a twist in the tale. Sasaki is having none of that and runs away before things escalated even more. A few days later on a holiday, Korea has prepared a bento for Sasaki to impress him. As she leaves for Sasaki's place, she notices Miharu leaving in a limousine just outside her house. When she goes to check it with Sasaki, she finds him sulking on the floor after his only companion had left home. Miharu had left a note saying that she was going somewhere, but this was a bit too suspicious for them both. Her leaving in a limousine, however, only meant one thing: Kazaharu was responsible somehow. The two friends, fearing that Miharu would be harassed by the pervert, race to Kazaharu's massive mansion in the middle of the city. The house is spread across a massive land surrounded by a large grass puzzle. As soon as they reach outside, Kiri and Sasaki realize that Kazaharu was probably Jeff Bezos' son. That mansion was huge! Just as they reach the gate, a lady maid comes from inside and asks them what business they have there. Kiri lies and tells the maid that they are Kazaharu's friends and came there to meet him, but the maid instantly realizes her lie. She lets Kiri in, but Sasaki can't enter. The maid knows that Kazaharu, who is so allergic to men, would never make a male friend. Sasaki is adamant to get it and is in no mood to go back empty-handed, so he jumps a wall and enters the mansion's massive grass maze. On the other hand, Kirei is escorted into the mansion through an easy passage and is led up to Kazaharu's room, who is his usual self. He notices the bento and eats it like it's nothing, but the food is so bad that he gets food poisoning. However, the sly man turns this situation to his advantage as well and guilt-trips Kirei into acting as his nurse with a really low skirt, obviously. Elsewhere, the maze is not just proving difficult, but outright impossible to Sasaki, who is having trouble finding his way. But that wasn't his only problem. Kazaharu had two highly trained maids with guns to shoot down every male intruder in his house premises. Talk about taking precautions. Kirei, on the other hand, is frustrated at the constant demands of Kazaharu, who doesn't even seem to be sick. The man just wants her to dress in hot costumes as eye candy. Finally, she snaps, knocks him out, and runs away. After some trouble with one of the security women, some very, very sensual trouble, if you know what I mean, Kirei manages to find Miharu, who turns out to be working part-time in the mansion. The poor girl was tricked, saying that she would be paid more when, in actuality, Kazaharu just wanted to molest her. The two girls somehow manage to escape the crazy mansion, while poor old Sasak is still there trying to find a way out. Life doesn't seem to give this boy the peace he needs ever, does it? Because another girl has just been transported into Sasaki's bathroom. The next day, despite the weather forecast suggesting otherwise, it rains pretty heavily. So Miharu and Kirei return home soaking wet. So the girls decide to have a shower together because, apparently, that's a thing in Japan. However, as soon as they enter the bathroom, they let out a wail. Sasaki rushes to help them out, but instead gets punched for trying to peep. Well, that's just how it is for men, I guess. Either way, despite being beat up, Sasaki gets up and helps the girl to the lysing room. She is still unconscious, so they wait for her to get back to her senses. When the girl finally wakes up, she has no recollection of who she is or why she is here. All she remembers is the time when her mother told her about her father being from Earth. One small fact about her, though, is that she fears men. It's not Miss Andy, she is just terrified of them. When Sasaki goes to help her out, she is very scared and tries to run away. Guess she was still in shock, but man, is she terrified. After a few broken dishes and a hell of a drama, the girls are finally able to calm her down and talk to her. Now, not sure if Kazaharu has installed hidden cameras and a mic into their house, but as soon as the new girl, Koyomi, opens her mouth, Kazaharu appears out of nowhere. Kirei tries to stop the man from being all weird with the new girl, but nothing can stop him, not even a knockout punch. Koyomi is absolutely terrified of this new weirdo and runs away, outside the house this time. Naturally, Kazaharu follows, and the other guys as well follow the girl into the street. The chase is more furious than Van Diesel and his buddies, and Kazaharu goes through a lot of trouble to keep track of the girl. The mad lad jumps through a busy street chasing after the girl. Fortunately, Koyomi falls into a manhole, and this dazzles Kazaharu, making him lose track of her. Koyomi then wanders into town, finally sitting down next to a local fountain where Sasaki finds her. He calmly explains to her how she got here and tells her that he is trying to help her. Just as Koyomi starts warming up to Sasaki, Kazaharu shows up yet again. Man, this guy is sharp and too good when it comes to simping. This time, though, Sasaki uses Kazaharu's weakness to his advantage. He touches the man, making him sick with rashes, and races away with Koyomi, but Kazaharu throws his umbrella to stop them. Just as Sasaki and Koyomi fall, the girl notices the pattern of rashes on Sasaki's neck, similar to the one on Miharu's head, and realizes why she was sent here from Seiren. As for Kazaharu, Kirei arrives and teaches him a lesson on etiquette. The next day, Koyomi is troubled. She had arrived in Earth for one reason: to bring Mahiru back to Seiren. Apparently, Kahara, Mahiru's sister, had filed a complaint about Mahiru going missing and was bothering the people in the police department so much that they sent Koyomi to personally bring back Mahiru. Only problem is that Koyomi has started to feel that her mission is going to make Mahiru very sad. She doesn't want to tell anyone about her plan and intends to head back alone. However, Sasaki has already figured it out and told Mahiru about it as well. Mahiru actually agrees to go back because she knows that her sister must be worried sick about her. However, with the return back to Earth unlikely, this was her last meeting with Sasaki. The two friends part ways in a gloomy way, and life goes back to how it was before Sasaki traveled to Seiren. Days go by, and Mahana finally starts to notice just how sad her sister is and finally lets her have her happiness and return back to Earth. However, she sends back Koyomi and another female chibi called Tomo with a special request: finding her a husband. Koyomi and Tomo return back to Earth with Miharu, who is glad to get back with Sasaki. They even bring back a baby seal from the world, which Miharu takes as a pet to eat later. They call him Ebi. Everyone is having a great time, but they have a new mission now of more importance: to find Mahana a husband, and fast. However, there is still the issue of Koyomi's fear of men. She is absolutely terrified of them, and to find a man, she has to interact with men to know how they are. The whole group heads out to a local gathering, what looks like the launch of a new motorcycle. As Tomo separates from them to find her own way of dealing with stuff, the girls decide to host the launch of the motorcycle themselves. Not sure if that is allowed or even legal, but they do it. The girls dressed up in thirst-driven costume and attract a lot of men to the place. However, as expected, a lot of them are incels and degenerates. Not sure what they expected. Tomo, on the other hand, manages to attract the attention of many men as well as a lost helpless child, but these men too are, well, not very good in their heads. These degenerates fight over each other to be the one to quote-unquote help Tomo. Lisa, however, notices all this and is in no mood to let her rivals to attract Sasaki succeed, and so, to foil their plans, she sends her workers. One of these men shows the degenerates another picture, and they rush away, leaving Tomo with no one else. As she sits there sulking, another man shows up and helps her. He is gentle and kind and even offers the little girl back to her place. But yes, you guessed it, this guy was none other than Kazaharu. Tomo accidentally takes Kazaharu back to Seizen, but the pervert shows how big of a degenerate he is and is instantly rejected by Mahana. And yes, both of the girls are back on Earth. The next day, Mahiru is super happy about something and is visibly smiling at the day. All the others in the room can't help but notice her happiness. They ask her what it is, and Mahiru explains that they were having chemistry lab today. The poor girl thought that they would be making some great chemical to eat. However, Sasaki quickly breaks her misconception and warns her not to eat any harmful chemicals in the lab. Sasaki personally vows to stop Mahiru to make any stupid food mistakes. However, in the lab, the very second that he takes his eyes off the girl, she ends up drinking an entire vial of alcohol. As soon as that happens, Mahiru gets the sneezes. She starts sneezing all over, and with each sneeze, the girl creates a clone of herself. The chain reaction of each of these clones sneezing creates Mahiru in the hundreds and thousands. Kazaharu is the only one ecstatic about this, but when he goes to grope one of the clones, she explodes. The clones were exploding as soon as anyone touched them. Sasaki and Kirei start looking for the real Mahiru to end this whole thing, but this is no easy task. There are literally hundreds and thousands of her. When another explosion occurs, Kirei and Sasaki are separated as the huge crowd of Mahirus are heading somewhere outside of school. Kazuharu and Kirei actually figure it out fast, but not fast enough. They race to the food market, but the entire street is already empty. The huge crowd of hungry clones. The two meet the same banana shopkeeper there who has lost his entire year's stock thanks to the hungry parade that just passed by. The shopkeeper tells them that the next stop for the mob must be the shopping mall. They race there and this time manage to get there on time and warn the people there to shut it all down. Soon, the horde of Mahirus reach the supermarket and no barricade can hold the hungry mob. They rush into the supermarket and along with them is Kazaru. The pervert manages to risk his own life and touches the girls left and right to destroy quite a few of them, but in order to deliver the final blow, the supermarket owners give him a banana costume, which attracts all the Mahirus towards him, causing a massive explosion, and the end of this shadow clone jutsu fiasco. The original Mahiru is later found by Sasaki nearby the local fountain, drunk and asleep, and he helps her back to their home. On their way back, they notice that a large banana statue of Kazuhara has now been established for dealing with the Avenger-level threat. The next day, when Tomo and Kirei get into an argument, Tomo decides to show everyone just how powerful and useful she is by turning Ebi, the pet seal, who fortunately Mahiru hasn't eaten, into a literal girl. Once she is done flexing her powers are displayed, she tries to return Ebi back to its normal form, but the seal is just not ready to become, well, a seal. Ebi runs outside and runs into Lisa, who had arrived there to seduce Sasaki. With the last encounter with Kazuharu, Tomo doesn't really like his family that much. She berates Lisa and demands that she returns Ebi back, but when the girl doesn't flinch, Tomo uses her powers. However, Lisa is as strong as Tomo and can easily stop her attacks. She shocks everyone with her powers and takes Ebi away. However, after realizing that putting any young near her house, i.e. near her degenerate brother, is really risky, Lisa takes Ebi to a local park. It turns out that Lisa used to have a pet doll that she gave life to, but one day she accidentally put her in a spell and she disappeared. The same story is being told to Tomo and the others by one of the maids. The group had come to Kazuharu's house to search for Ebi, but now, after they had heard the backstory, the group had to find Lisa as well. However, as soon as they find her, Tomo summons 3 monsters like Pokemon and the Battle of the Magicians begins. Lisa yet again is powerful like before, but this time it seems that she's being allowed to win. Just when she fires up an elimination spell that almost kills Ebi, Lisa's doll from her childhood appears and saves Ebi. The doll was created by Tomo, who gives it as a gift and peace offering to Lisa, and the two become friends, setting aside their differences. Wow, that was wholesome, but not so fast. Some sus things are yet to happen. A few days later, Sasaki manages to win a special trip to a faraway hot spring, and the whole group, Sasaki, Tomo, Kirei, Koyomi, and Mahiru, head to the location. When they reach there, they realize that the place no longer has any hot springs, and instead, the landlady had started a crocodile banana farm. Yes, it's as weird and straightforward as it sounds. So the group heads into the forest and enjoys some great time at the local river. Poor old Sasaki, who is allergic to girls, still gets beaten up for no reason at all. The man is allergic to girls and is still beaten up for being a pervert. 2 facts that just don't add up. When the group returns, they stumble upon a huge mansion, owned by none other than Kazuharu, and both he and his sister Lisa are there. They invite the group to join them for a trip to their private hot spring. This is obviously a trap, but the group fall into it anyway. Turns out their private hot spring is actually haunted by a ghost, and the siblings were using them as bait to lure the spirit. As soon as Sasaki enters the scene, the female spirit shows itself. Turns out that she was killed after being molested by a molester. She had already taken her revenge, but her soul was still not liberated. She requests that Sasaki reenact the molestation so that she could relive it and be free. Reluctantly, Sasaki agrees and the ghost enters Kirei's body, and, well, it happens. Can't quite explain the abusing part on YouTube, can we? The final day, Kazuharu challenges the group to a real sus ping pong match. If he wins, he will get a body wash from Kirei and Koyomi. However, what he doesn't realize is that Koyomi was actually the ping pong champion in her world, and with little trouble, the group managed to win against Kazuharu, and as his punishment, the pervert is put into a bucket and is cooked from the bottom with a fire. I don't know, this anime is really weird, but if you want to have a part 2, comment down below. If you enjoy the series, don't forget to leave a comment and a like to help the channel out. Thanks for watching.